This is Coffee with Frankie for Sunday, June the 22nd, 2025. This is the coffee. I'm the Frankie, and before we get going with the show, why don't we listen to the Frankie from Flatbush theme song?
Frankie from Flatbush rides the Brooklyn line. Got a swagger sharp like a vintage wine. Everybody knows his name from porch to stoop. Hustle and dreams in every loop. In the park he starts, hits the handball wall. Echoes hear the stories when the shadows fall. Got 1,000 tales and a comforting grin. On the streets of Flatbush where legends begin. Frankie from Flatbush got the city glow, lighting up the borough with his every show. He's the heart of Brooklyn, never laying low. Frankie from Flatbush, always on the go. Bodega lights flicker when Frankie's near. He's got the rhythm, everybody cheers. Corner talks and sidewalk chalks his fame. In the Flatbush breeze you'll hear his name. Underneath the subway hum, the magic's real. Frankie's moves got that electric feel. From Atlantic Avenue to the urban hill, Flatbush Frankie's giving you a thrill. Frankie from Flatbush got the city glow, lighting up the borough with his every show. He's the heart of Brooklyn, never laying low. Frankie from Flatbush, always on the go. Bodega lights flicker when Frankie's near, lighting up the borough with his every show. He's the heart of Brooklyn, never laying low. Frankie from Flatbush, always on the go. Frankie from Flatbush got the city glow, lighting up the borough with his every show. He's the heart of Brooklyn, never laying low. Frankie from Flatbush, always on the go. On the go. Always on the go. Always on the go.
All right, let's get on with the show. It's Sunday, June the 22nd, 2025. This is Coffee with Frankie. I am the Frankie. Let me know if you can see and hear me okay out there. Ringing the bell, audio visual check. Got to make sure we sound and look okay for the show. Let me know in the chat if you can, if we're sounding okay. Joe Mike is here. JoJo's here. 15-yard penalties here. Let me know if you guys can hear me okay in the chat. Chat. Need your assistance. Let me know if the audio and video is okay. Before we get started on some of the things that we want to talk about, doesn't make any sense to start talking if you can't hear me. And we never know, even though things can sound good, look good on my end, you know, we've had plenty of problems in the past, so we got to always check it out. 15-yard penalty says we're good. All right. Good. So let's get on with the show, shall we? Joe Mike is here, and he says, how excited are you that we have the thicker kicker? Not thicker the kicker, the thicker kicker on the team. Well, I wrote about this, Joe. I wrote about it in a post on this very channel. So let's take a look at what I wrote, shall we? 3 days ago, Jets signed big fat kicker. Today, the Jets signed Harrison Mevis and waived Anders Carlson, ushering in a new kickster competition between Mevis and Cade Davis. This should be Caden Davis, I think, at UDFA. Glad to see, as I surmised, Carlson gets the boot. Yeah, I was not happy about Anders Carlson. He has not proven to be an NFL kicker at this point. Mevis's nicknames important. The thicker kicker, that's the consensus nickname. Somebody also said Mevis Island. It's not so good. Just because it rhymes with Revis doesn't mean he gets his own island. But I gave him a new one, the Round Mound of Field Goal Town. I like that one. The Round Mound of Field Goal Town. Here's Fatty's skinny bio. Harrison Mevis, born in 2002 in Indiana, nicknamed the thicker kicker. He's 5'11", 243. And then he went on to the University of Missouri. So the other thing people are saying is we're the Missouri Jets, which I don't mind. We got, of course, we got Armand Membu, and we got Brady Cook in camp, the quarterback, and now we got this guy. So we got three Missouri dudes. 85% all 28 PATs, including game-winning kick against Arkansas sophomore season. He went 93%. And he was first-team All-American 2024. He didn't do as good, but still pretty good. College career marked by historic achievements, including a 61-yard game-winning field goal against Kansas State in 2023. 61 yards. So he's big and fat, but he got a big leg. 61-yarder. You got to love that. He finished Missouri tenure as the program's all-time leading scorer, 84%. Field goal accuracy, and his extra points, he was like 99.3%. He only missed one extra point his whole career in college. After going undrafted, he signed with the Panthers, but was waived in favor of old friend Eddie Pinheiro. That's who we probably should have kept all this time. He was very good, but he didn't have a big leg, so, you know. He then joined the Birmingham Stallions, where he went 20 for 21. Pretty good. Including a 54-yarder, and then he got a deal with the New York Jets where he continues to compete for a starting role. So we had a poll. What do you think of this roster move? So 76% thought it was good or great. So the fan base liked it. 53 votes we got on here. 53 votes of Jet fans. 76% liked the move, Joe Mike. So there you go. Harrison Mevis, the Round Mound of Field Goal Town. That's a good move. We're getting younger. We're getting rid of all these veterans, and it's just the way it goes. Stop screen sharing. We didn't have a good veteran. I mean, we didn't have confidence in Zerline anymore. He's getting up there in age. Same thing with the punter. So we're bringing in two young guys, and they'll compete. I would expect Harrison Mevis probably wins this, but you never know. Really. They both got a shot. Caden Davis was, I think, like the third-ranked kicker coming out this year. He didn't get drafted, but he's not a slouch, so he could win it, and we'll see what happens. JoJo's here. JoJo was a man from Tucson, Arizona. Time for some cafe. 15-yard penalties here. Good morning to you. JoJo says special teams will be a concern, which is odd if Glenn is a Parcells guy. Well, you don't know if it's going to be a concern. These guys could be good. We don't know. There's just unknown right now, JoJo. I mean, what if they're good? Now, the punter, I like the punter we signed. He can do some things. He can do fakes. He can throw the ball. So we'll have to see how it turns out. But I wouldn't be negative about it at this point, JoJo. It's an unknown. It's a question mark. Now, keeping in mind that Zerline stunk, our kicker stunk last year, and the punter, Morstead, was not good last year. People think Morstead was good. He wasn't good last year. He was good previously, but he's starting to fall off. He's sort of like an average to below average punter last year. So that's not a big loss. But you could always do worse, of course. So we'll have to see. But at this point, I would put it in the question mark category, JoJo, not the we're going to be worse. I wouldn't say that. We don't know that yet. You got to see. Joe Mike, Ricky, have you heard anything about UDFA's Jamal Pritchett and Jamarcus Weston? I hear that they are standing out in practice. Well, we don't have any information other than what we're getting from the Dum Beat Media, who's allowed to be there. Jamal Pritchett, yeah, he's getting some play as maybe a guy who could make the roster. And I haven't heard anything about Jamarcus Weston at all, I must admit. And Jamarcus Weston is more of a special teams player. He's thought of as a gunner type, even though he did play defensive end. He played a bunch of positions in college. Really unique guy. I don't think Jamarcus Weston is going to be a defensive end in the NFL, and I don't think anybody's talking about him like that. Now, we don't know because there's only these limited practices, and they're just kind of like 7-on-7 drills. They do a little of 11-on-11, but and then it's whatever the beat writers choose to tell us, Joe. So that's part of the problem with these beat writers. It's what they choose to tell us influences our opinions and our thoughts because we don't have any other way to get in there. Now, one thing you could do, right, to get some information, if Robbie Sabo ever does a live stream, ask Robbie. Now, Robbie's a guy who does live streams, and he's a beat reporter, and he goes to these practices and stuff. And so he can give you firsthand knowledge. I can't. I'm not at the practice. And Robbie's a guy who'll give you his honest opinion, right? He's not going to put any spin on it. He's not going to be, worried about what an agent's going to say or anything like that. So I would say one thing to do if you're curious about a guy like, let's say, Jamarcus Weston, and nobody's talking about him. Well, if if Robbie's on a live stream, and I think he does I think it's live, show with Wayne Corbett every so often, get in his chat and ask Robbie why. Because Robbie is a beat guy in a certain sense. He runs the Jets X Factor, but he actually attends. You got to get firsthand knowledge somehow. Otherwise, all we can do is read the beat writers, which I do. But if they choose not to talk about Weston, for example, then there's no way for anybody to know, right? On the outside. Joe Mike, any concerns the Jets might be going? No, I don't have any concerns. I mean, we're not going to the Super Bowl anyway, Joe. Let's see. These guys are new. Maybe they'll be good. Maybe they're not. But we're not winning the Super Bowl, so. This whole year, Joe, is about Justin Fields and whether he's the guy or not. That's what it is. And so, let's watch the kickers. Maybe they could find one. Maybe they don't, and they have to get some other guy. But it's not a big concern of mine. I'm not expecting the Jets to compete for a Super Bowl, are you? So the thing to watch this year is Justin Fields. That's the thing you can watch a lot of things, but the main thing, the number one thing is Justin. And how does the offense play? And we got an article to talk about that actually will be interesting to see. To see something about the offense last year that maybe gives us some optimism for this year. Harlan Abraham is here. Walter Bonchich is here. Good to see Walter Bonchichi. Ab Lab is here. Coffee time for Ab Lab. Indeed, coffee time. We must stay caffeinated in these crazy times. Walter Bonchichi, the punter, has tree trunks for legs. Oh, yeah. He's a big guy, but he kicks 60-yard field goals. Todd is here. Good to see Todd. Just win Jets. Well, we're not going to win the Super Bowl, so I don't think we're going to just win. And also, there's no such thing as just winning. There's a process. Bring. But let's talk about some of these media articles. Since we're talking about the offense, something that I think is optimistic. We see an article here that was written that's supposed to get us all upset and be negative, but actually it has a silver lining. What are we talking about? Well, let's go over to Jets X Factor. We've got an article here. Somebody wrote an article. Got an article. Let's look at the article. Article written by Nick Faria. He used to write for other organizations. Now he's writing for Jets X Factor. Aaron Rodgers plays the blame game over failed New York Jets tenure. So this is somebody who, this obviously is an article that's supposed to get us mad at Aaron Rodgers for saying negative things about the Jets. Boo! We are mad at Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is at it again, Nick Faria says. The former starting quarterback of the Jets can't seem to shut up about his time in Jersey and what really caused the team's downfall during that period. And as we all know, it can't possibly be Aaron Rodgers. The man never takes blame for anything. As the Jets struggled to win just 6 games in Rodgers' time in New York, the future Hall of Fame signal caller told anyone who would listen about everything the team struggled with. Yeah. While he would add himself to the reasoning, it would usually be done after talking about the mistakes the others have made. Since the Jets opted to move on from him this offseason, Rodgers' anger has only persisted. The new wrinkle involves the Pittsburgh Steelers starting quarterback bringing other Super Bowl champions into the conversation. What Super Bowl champions is he bringing in? Blah, blah, blah. Backstory. So, for Rodgers to go out of his way to complain about the different problems the Jets had on the offensive side of the ball is quite comical. Oh, he says because we brought in Nathaniel Hackett and Randall Cobb and Alan Lazard and this one and that one. We did everything to cater toward Rodgers Chanel, but Rodgers is complaining. Rodgers complaining to Super Bowl champion offensive lineman Mark Schlereth. Oh, no. This guy's known as Stink. Mark Stink Schlereth because he used to pee in his pants before every game. That's a fact. And Mark Schlereth, of course, hates the Jets, famously. Does not like the Jets at all. Old Stinkmeister. And he, in fact, got into an argument with Green Bean, our very own Green Bean. Imagine Mark Schlereth getting into an internet spat with Green Bean. Of course, we all stand together in defense of Green Bean. Anybody attacks Green Bean attacks the entire fan base. And so good luck, Mark Schlereth, up against the entire Jet fan base. But anyway, this is what old Stinky Stink had to say. Aaron and I had a conversation about when he was with the Jets, how abysmal their running game was, and how schematically it made no sense. I started the conversation, and then Aaron went on for about a 25-minute diatribe just on their run game. So now it is kind of stupid and comical that this entire offense that we catered around Aaron Rodgers is now complaining about how we did that. Now, on the other hand, though, what this really means, the running game, how it was structured, how it was schematically set up, who's responsible for that? Well, it's mostly Nathaniel Hackett and Todd Downing, and then your offensive line coach, Keith Carter. The offensive line coach is intimately involved in the run game, usually on a football team. And so those people are all gone. So I think the good news here is that we got rid of a bunch of coaches that set up that run game. So if it is true that the schematics of it made no sense, well, number one, that's on Hackett, who's a hand-picked coach that Aaron Rodgers loves. So that makes no sense, and that's what the gist of this article is. But also, we got rid of those people. And that ultimately, all those people ultimately fall on Robert Saleh. Robert Saleh hired all those people. And Robert Saleh, in my opinion, good coach, good defensive coach, not really ready to be the head coach, in my opinion. 49ers feel differently, of course. But he hired all those people, and he's gone. So what we could hope is that the downturn in, say, Breece Hall's play, if you look at his yards per carry, gone down every year. What we could hope is that maybe Breece Hall and Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis could have much better seasons with a much better schematically created run game, better run game schematics, and of course a better blocking. You have to block people, but that's the silver lining, that maybe Angstrand and all the new coaches will have a better run scheme, and if we run a bunch of RPOs, that'll improve the run scheme a lot because you'll have Justin Fields running a lot of the times, and he's elite at that. So to me, yeah, this is annoying in a certain sense that Rodgers is complaining about the hand-picked coach that we put on the staff because of him, and then he's complaining about how that coach built the run game. Okay, that's a little annoying. And also annoying, this guy just never takes responsibility for anything. It's never his fault. It's this guy didn't run the red line. That guy didn't know how to stop on a route. This guy was this coach and that coach, and it's never his fault. So that's annoying. But on the other hand, maybe we could look forward to a. I'm sure there's some truth in this. I'm sure it was. I mean, Rodgers is a 21-year vet, so he knows how a good schemed up run game's supposed to look. You would think Nathaniel Hackett would know that by now, but apparently not. Uh, so, but I'm sure there's some truth to this because Rodgers is a 21-year vet. He's a smart guy, knows what it's supposed to look like. So if it was true that the scheme was bad, well, we're getting a new scheme. And so, and again, this would put it in the question mark category. We don't know how it's going to go. But you would hope that Engstrand and the boys and AG and everybody is going to have a much better scheme that could allow the talents of Brees Hall et al. To come out where we actually really do have a really great run game. And then if you do have a great run game, that can lead to a really great passing game because then teams try to stop the run and then you do a little play action and then bada bing, bada boom, there you go. So I would say this is great news, actually. Great news because, hey, all the things he's complaining about, we changed over. B-Mac, Rodgers never lies. Yeah, he lies constantly. Joe Mike, Frankie, I was thinking if Tanner Engstrand is creative, where would he rank in terms of Jeff Overwood? I would say I don't care where he ranks, Joe. Let's just have a good offense where we gain a lot of yards and score a lot of points. How about that? Bing. You know what I mean? Like, let's not worry about where he ranks in terms of Jets offensive coordinators. This is more of a question for like the Badlands crew, Joe, to be honest with you. The Badlands guys always want to compare what's happening now to something in the past. They're very past minded. So anything that's happening now, they compare to something in the past. This guy's like Braylon Edwards. This guy's like Curtis Martin. That guy's like this bad player we had in the past. This guy, how does he compare to Schottenheimer? How does he compare to Paul Hackett, Nathaniel Hackett's father, who was here for a while? How does he compare to Parcells? What about comparing him to Herm Edwards? I don't care about all that. Me personally, I'm like a future person. There's 3 different types of people in the world, Past people, present people, future people. I'm always trying to think about the future. What's next? But the Badlands guys they're definitely past people. They equate everything going on now to what was something that has happened in the Jets past. They're like Jets historians, kind of like Green Bean in a way too. But I don't care where he would rank, Joe. I don't care. Let's just get an offense that works and that's watchable and that we can all be proud of, and so that we don't look like ass clowns on the freaking field. How about that? Like, so we can stop being a laughing stock and we can try to get out of the gutter. We need to get out of the ghetto and the gutter of the ghetto, and we need to start crawling into the middle class neighborhood of the NFL. That's what we need to do, one way or another. Whether it's Justin Fields or it's going to be a rookie next year or whatever it's going to be, that's what we need. And again, that's going to be an open question. It's a question mark right now. We don't know how Engstrand's going to do. We don't know how he's going to run it. Everything's up. Everything's a question mark and brand new, so it's hard to judge at this point. But let's hope we get a really nice offense at least that is watchable, and so that we're not laughing stocks and we don't seem like we're going to be in the ghetto for the rest of our days on Earth. How about that, Joe? I don't care where he stands according to the previous OC. I don't care. That's a question for Badlands. Give it to those guys. They'll tell you where he would stand. I don't care. Aaron left his damn bell at home. Yeah. Joe says Rodgers handpicked that. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what this article is trying to get at. And me make you go, Rodgers is an idiot. But, I say whatever, dude. Look, we did everything we could to cater to him, and he still complains about it, which is another reason why we shouldn't have done that. But they did. I mean, I knew at the time it was bad, and we'll never really know. We'll never really know how the Aaron Rodgers experiment would have played out because 2023 was the year. That was the year. I mean, think about it. That was the year, and but he got hurt, and so we'll never really know how that really would have worked out. In the end, because he got injured. That's the way it goes. Ablab is here. Rodgers had one of the highest pass attempts, probably three. Yeah, he threw constantly. That's another good point by Ablab right here. Yeah, in order to get all of his normie stats up, the yards, the touchdowns, he had to throw like 600 times. Like I think he was through the most actually, Ablab, and we ran the least. And a lot of those, the least amount of rush attempts in the league, and a lot of that is because of all the audibles that Rodgers ran. So basically, you have these, and you mentioned the audibles, right? So you have Aaron Rodgers audibling, and you have Nathaniel Hackett, the handpicked OC, calling the plays, and then they switched to Downing. But he's calling the plays from his handpicked OC, and then if he doesn't like the play, he goes up to the line and audibles out of it, and that resulted in one of the highest number of passes in the league and the fewest runs. Now, so that's yeah, so he definitely should be blamed for that. But of course, he's not going to take the blame because his whole history of life, he blames other people. I mean, go listen to his interviews all through the, Green Bay days, etc. He blames other people. He will throw himself in there. He'll say, "Me too," and I have to get better, and then he'll go on a 10-minute diatribe about some other guy, like Mike Williams not running on the red line, etc. So he deserves blame, but at the same time, I'm sure that there were schematic problems. I mean, he would know if there's schematic problems. Maybe we weren't running great. Maybe we didn't have great runs in the playbook. I mean, one way you could look at this is maybe he knew the runs we had in the playbook weren't good, and so he took it on himself to basically audible out of almost every run because he didn't have confidence that the run play would work. If you wanted to look at it, if you were a Steeler fan right now, looking, trying to sell yourself on Aaron Rodgers, that's probably how you would look at it. You would say, well, he knew the run wasn't going to work because he didn't like the schematic of it, and he's a 21-year vet. Therefore, that's why he audibled as much as he did out of those runs and had to pass because of how the scheme was, constructed. That would be the optimistic way to look at this if you wanted to sell yourself on Aaron Rodgers is going to play well for the Steelers, for example, if you were a Steeler fan. So, but I just think it rings hollow when we catered everything to him. He audibled all the time, and then he wants to talk about the schematic of the runs. I mean, there's only so much you could do run-wise in a schematic thing anyway. Outside zone, inside zone, a gap scheme, duo. There's only so many types of things you can run. I mean, it's not, rocket science. What? He wanted to run more duo. He wanted to run more outside zone. Then why didn't he just tell, Hackett to run those things? There's only so many things you run. In the NFL, you run it outside, run it inside. There's not a ton of things you do. Yeah, bring a sifter. I mean, there's things, but what? He wanted to run more outside zone? Then just tell fucking Hackett to put it in there, dummy. Like, what? The entire organization was catered toward this guy. And if he wanted more outside zone in there, or inside zone, or gap, or this or that, tell Hackett to put it in the playbook, dum-dum. He's going to do whatever you want. Whatever you want in the playbook, when you're in training camp, tell Hackett to put it in there. What? Is Hackett going to say no? I mean, I don't want to get worked up over this guy. But that's the real thing that isn't said in this article. It's like, if you wanted more of whatever it is, just tell Hackett to put it in there, and it would be in there, right? So, again, he's blaming everybody else. He could have just controlled it by saying, hey, why don't we run more duo? Hey, why are we not running more inside zone? Hey, why are we not running this? And just put it in. It's not a big mystery. Went on 25 minutes, Schlereth says. And, Schlereth is also airing apparently a private conversation. So Schlereth, old Stinkmeister, never misses an opportunity to stick it to the Jets, of course. including talking about a private conversation he had with Aaron Rodgers. I don't think it was part of a podcast or anything, or maybe it was. No, well, he said on his podcast he had this quote here, but he didn't have Aaron on the podcast doing the 25-minute diatribe, so it was a private conversation. And so Schlereth Stinkmeister putting it out there, you know, he's also not a great guy. Yeah, kind of an asshole, if you ask me. And anybody who gets into a fight with Green Bean, yeah, I'm not going to be too happy with you. Just saying. But that's the way it is, and it's it's annoying. But anyway, it's another reason that it's great that we turned the page from this guy. It didn't work. Turn the page. Time for a new era. But of course, we're going to hear more. Stuff like this is going to come out. So we just got to be ready. This is never-ending saga with the Jets until we start winning. Things like this are going to come out. Walter Bonchichi. I hope the stadium chants "Diva, Diva" when Rodgers takes the field. Well, we should have our own version of Renegade ready. This is what I said when he signed with the Steelers. Number one, we shouldn't worry about their running game. I mean, he didn't like our running game. How's he going to like the Steelers' running game, where it's 13 personnel all day with Arthur Smith over there? That's one thing. But then another thing is, we should have a Jet version of Renegade ready, just in case if we're winning in the fourth quarter by a substantial margin. We should do our own version of Renegade. Why not? What? Do they own the intellectual property of Renegade? They're the only team in the league that could do a Renegade video. We could do our own Renegade video. Why can't we do our own Renegade video? We could do it. It's not illegal. It's not they don't own it. We can do it, and that would be fun. And the fans would get into it. Plus, I don't know if you guys have ever experienced the Renegade video thing at the Pittsburgh Stadium, but it's pretty awesome. I have experienced it personally. It's awesome. If I were a Pittsburgh fan, I would love that thing. I like it just as it's because there's an awesome thing that goes on in a stadium. So why don't we have our version just for this game? Just for this game, just to rub it in if we're ahead. Just have it ready to go. Renegade time in New Jersey. What do we have in our stadium? Thunderstruck. Everybody has that. Yeah. We need to turn into giant trolls on a stadium level. I think. All right. So that's that. Jojo says, my concern is defense this year. Yeah, well, that's my concern as well. We need better defenders. So we'll have to see if we sign anybody. It's June 22nd. We have all this cap space, and we didn't sign anybody additional. So we have big, giant holes on the defense, and we're not addressing them, even though there's good players available. Nobody else is signing Zadarius Smith and Jadeveon Clowney and a bunch of other players. But so I don't know what these teams are waiting for, but we have giant holes on the roster that need to be addressed on the defense, and we don't seem to be addressing them. So, but again, we don't know how old Steve Wilkes and AG are going to run the defense, JoJo. So again, we got to wait and see, because maybe they're planning to do something unexpected. We don't know. I mean, if we try to do the same thing we did with Saleh, we're going to be in trouble. But we don't know they're going to do that, and they probably won't. Hank G is here. Ablab. Hey, Frankie, do you think in terms of talent, Fields is on Jalen Hurts tier? Yeah, he's as good as Hurts talent. I mean, if you just think about running and pass, like arm strength and speed, yeah. He's probably faster than Hurts. And he's actually probably better in terms of just arm strength, how far you can throw it, and how fast do you run. He's probably better. But quarterbacking is a brain position, Ablab, as you know. And so processing and decision making and leadership and all of that is the most important thing. If you can add, sort of running talent and arm talent to that, then you have something. But obviously, Jalen Hurts took the year 3 leap, and Justin Fields has not taken the leap. But yeah, if Fields improves his brain game, then yes, he can. But we have not seen complete evidence that he can do that. That's what we're going to be watching for this year. Can he become more of a complete quarterback in the Jalen Hurts mold? I mean, why not? Why not? It's all a matter of how his brain game develops as a QB. Can he get the ball out quick? Can he recognize things quickly and make good decisions and then deliver the ball on time and accurately, and has to do that consistently over and over and over and over and over again. That's really the hallmark of the best quarterbacks is their consistency. They can consistently do it game after game, drive after drive, play after play. They're just able to consistently do it. You see flashes. All the quarterbacks in the league really show you some flashes at times, even the bad ones. Even Zach Wilson had his moments. I mean, think about it. But you need to be able to do it drive after drive, game after game, consistent, consistent, consistent. And we'll see if Justin's able to do it. But yeah, he could definitely get up to Jalen Hurts tier for sure. There's no reason why. Well, he can. It's all about the processing. Walter says, I think Q and Williams will have good years. Jermaine is going to want to prove he's still viable. Yeah, all the players want to play well. Walter, every player on the team wants to play well. Yeah, maybe these GoPros will help him. Maybe it's GoPros, maybe it's just experience. I mean, the thing you have to hope is that there's a Sam Darnold, Geno Smith type move for him, where it's just experience. When you get this much experience in the league, you can now operate at a higher level. I mean, think about it. Even Matthew Stafford, right? If you just look at Matthew Stafford, he never, in his early days, he never was over 65% completion, just using completion percentage as one metric to look at. Early days of his career, he was never over 65%. Then he hit his age 27 season, hit 65%, and never went below ever again the rest of his career. And that's just an example of sometimes it just takes a while for a quarterback to be able to function at a high level in this very difficult sport. And so, will it be Fields? We don't know. That's what we're watching. We're hoping, but you don't know. We don't know. Yeah, the GoPros, the fact that, I mean, that's another smart thing. I got another smart thing here. Then we'll talk about Malachi Corley. But, that's just one of the smart things this coaching staff has done. So I would look at these GoPros as like a optimistic way to look at the coaching staff. Like, oh, this makes total sense, right? I don't think anybody looks at those GoPro cameras and says, that's stupid, right? That makes a lot of sense that you would want to look at the video after, and it also has audio, to review your performance on the practice field and what you were doing. So you could result in better coaching. So you look at this coaching staff and you say, well, that's pretty smart because the old coaching staff didn't do that, right? And not all coaching staffs do it. So it seems like a very bright idea. And so you could say, well, that's good about our coaching staff. They came up with a bright idea for once. So that's one sign that maybe we got some smart people around here for once. Yeah, Megatron was amazing. I was looking at some of his stats the other day. Something like 80. See, Megatron had something like 83 touchdowns, which is a lot of touchdowns. And they were showing like the leaders, and Jerry Rice has like 197. Megatron had like 83 touchdowns, and you go, "Wow, that's an incredible career. Great career, Megatron." And then you look at the leaders, and you're like, Jerry Rice. Yeah, Jerry Rice had way more than twice as many from a great receiver like Megatron. I mean, Rice was just crazy. Harlan says, true. Look how long it took Smith and Darnold. Yeah, and there's many other examples as well. I mean, just think about this. I think it's 26 or 24. I'm going to go 26. The male human brain doesn't finish evolving until age 26. So I think males are 26 and females are 24, which is why females are sort of ahead for a long time as people are developing, right? In terms of brain smartness, being a smarty pants. The male human brain doesn't even finish evolving and maturing and get to its final state until age 26 in a male human. So how are we, and quarterback is mostly a brain position. So it makes perfect sense to me that you would have these guys, and look at these older quarterbacks coming in the league. Bo Nix, for example, uh, and we'll see how Tyler Shuck does this year. Would be another example. Even a Dylan Gabriel. Let's see how Dylan Gabriel does in Cleveland this year. These older quarterbacks coming in and being ready to go. Why? Because their brain has developed, and also they have a lot of experience in college, so it's not just one thing. But that could be a factor as well. When you take these young guys, especially at the quarterback position, you're taking that's a big risk. And I think more and more quarterbacks are going to stay in school for that reason now that they have NIL and all that. Um, come in and don't have to go through some of the things that these young QBs have gone through. Maybe just step in and be ready to go. Meanwhile, you're getting NIL while you're in college. All good. Yeah, I was thinking this, JoJo. I was like, I looked at that. I was like, nobody is breaking that record. and also, he needed like three more for 200, right? But like, how is anybody going to break that record? I mean, it's crazy. Did you know that Jerry Rice? He was like 40. He was like he broke the mold of everything, but like he played until he was like 42, 43, which is crazy for a wide receiver. And at the end, he was in training camp with the Titans or with some team, and they cut him. So even at the end, and then nobody picked him up. Even at the end, he was in training camp with some team. I forget which one, the Rams maybe. He was trying to play at like age 43, and they cut him. They were like, Jerry, get out of here. Jerry Rice. Shoot, man, the Jets should have picked him up. I forget what year that was, but I'm sure we could have used Jerry Rice on our squad. Uh, you know, crazy. He had the craziest career. The Lou Gehrig of wide receivers, yeah. But speaking of smart people that we hired, there's an example right here that I picked up, and you guys might not have seen this, so I'll bring it to your attention. Yeah, that's what I do here at Frankie, the Coffee with Frankie. Here's Eric Corum, PhD. We hired him. He's on the Jets, by the way. Talking about an article from the Physiological Society. I don't know if you read this article as you're going through your day. Muscle regeneration is improved by hot water immersion, but unchanged by cold, following a simulated musculoskeletal injury in humans. I don't know if you had an opportunity to review this article in the Physiological Society Journal of Physiology, but you know who did? Eric fucking Corum. That's who did. And he's on our team. We got this guy. He's reviewing articles like this right here. And he says more data. I guess he's got other data as well. More data that cold water immersion isn't the panacea for recovery. And why would it be, after all? You would think hot water would be much better and just heat in general. We need to get stuff to the injured area so the body can fix it. Cold stops everything. Cold stops everything in its tracks. It slows everything down. So why would we immerse ourselves in cold water? I don't know, but somebody did the experiment and they came up with the conclusion that muscle regeneration is improved by hot water immersion, but unchanged by cold, following a simulated musculoskeletal injury in humans. And look at all these researchers. And the point I want to make here is that I was the one who told you we needed to hire somebody like Eric Corum. I used Tim Grover as my example, if you remember that video. And the Mougey and AG did just that. We hired this motherfucker. PhD. That's a doctor of philosophy. but he's a smarty pants, okay? Texas A&M University he came out of, and we got him on our staff. He's our player success coach or something like that. And so again, this is another example. So GoPros on the helmet is an example of, hey, that's a smart idea. So smart coaching, right? Now we have this guy talking about, muscle regeneration, and maybe it's not cold water, maybe it's hot water. Yeah, we got smart people. Maybe we got some smart people that we hired, and maybe that will help us win some ball games. So just another example here that I thought I'd bring up. Especially, and I'm proud that I was the first one to say we needed a guy like this, and the Jets went out and got one. They didn't get Tim Grover. He's probably a little too famous and important and big time for the Jets, but we got a guy in that area. And so I think that's fantastic. Hopefully, we'll see some results. Alan Dodge, the Dodester. Good morning, the Frankie. Good morning, the coffee. Yes, I'm the Frankie. This is the coffee, Alan, right here. Gotta love it. I'm gonna get me some I just purchased some bourbon flavored coffee. This isn't it yet. I haven't gotten it yet, but I'm gonna try some bourbon flavored coffee next week. I'll let you guys know how it goes. Ablab. Hopefully he can dip Malachi in a hot tub. Well, let's talk about Malachi, Ablab, shall we? We got a new article. New article this week from Dick Chimney. Decided to dunk on Malachi. So, yeah. ESPN, Dick Chimney, Jets wide receiver Malachi Corley has a lot to prove in second year. Here's the Malachster. He was healthy, says right here. Malachi Corley appeared in only 9 games as a rookie, was a healthy scratch. That's why he's called Scratchy Malachi. By me, that's the nickname I gave him. Because he got scratched. He was too scratchy. Scratchy Malachi. All right, there's Dick Chimney. In the moment, it was real life imitating Hollywood. On day 2 of the 2024 NFL Draft, then New York Jets head coach Robert Saleh texted a photo of Western Kentucky wide receiver Malachi Corley to general manager Joe Douglas, adding the message, "No matter what." Douglas texted back, "No matter what." The lighthearted exchange, which the Jets later shared on social media, was a spoof on the 2014 movie Draft Day. In the film, Kevin Costner plays a GM and writes a pre-draft note to himself, Vontae Mack, no matter what. Well, he didn't. Actually, wasn't it Jennifer Garner who wrote the note? This guy can't even get movies right. It was Jennifer Garner who was like an assistant, and she was like not one of the football people, but even she knew. But she was employed by the team, and even she knew Vontae Mack, no matter what, and she wrote the note, I believe. If I'm not mistaken, let me know in the chat. Wasn't it Jennifer Garner who wrote the note, not Kevin Costner? And he just pulls it out of his pocket or something at some point. Like Costner, Douglas got his man. Several hours after Saleh's text, he traded up 7 spots. We traded up 7 spots to select Corley with the first pick in the 3rd round. The Jets were giddy with their choice. So was Corley, who told reporters he wanted to move into Aaron Rodgers' house so he could learn from the quarterback. A lot has changed in 14 months. Rodgers, Douglas, and Saleh are gone. Corley could be too, if he doesn't alter his career trajectory. Corley, whose only notable moment as a rookie was an embarrassing ball drop fumble at the goal line that resulted in a touchback in a primetime game, no less. Okay, just sticking it right in the Jet fan. Why don't you just remind her? Faces an intense battle in training camp for a roster spot. The new regime has no allegiance to him, which means there's no benefit of the doubt. He spent the past few weeks, including Mandy Minnie, sitting out with an undisclosed injury. Corley, known as the Yak King in college because of how he was able to use power and speed to gain yards after the catch, won't win any crowns from the sidelines. Can't make the club from the tub. He's going to have to find a way to catch himself up. OC Tanner Engstrand said last week, the Jets are installing a new offense, so every lost day is critical. For all the draft day fanfare, Corley never was embraced by the previous coaching staff. which is weird, which noticed immediately that his route running lacked precision, likely the byproduct of having a limited route tree at WKU. His maturity also came under scrutiny, with some in the organization privately questioning his approach. According to people with knowledge of the situation. Who are these people? Put your name to it, anonymous people. These are the anonymous people who just cast aspersions on young folks. Who are these people? Stop being anonymous! I hate these anonymous sources. People with knowledge of the situation. Put your name on it. If you're going to say this guy has problems with his approach, which he never had in the past, to our knowledge, you should at least put your name on it so we know you are the person saying he has a bad approach. But instead, you hide behind anonymity because you're a pussy. The entire building was under intense pressure to win, and the coaches didn't trust him enough to put him in the game, especially with the ultra-demanding Rodgers running the show. Corley played only 9 games, just 83 snaps on offense, and finished with 3 receptions for 16 yards. He was a healthy scratch in 5 games because he didn't play special teams. It was difficult to put him on the game day roster. The low point was Halloween night. On his first NFL carry, he wiped out what would have been an 18-yard touchdown by releasing the ball a split second before he crossed the goal line. A premature celebration that cost the team 6 points and resulted in loss of possession. Fortunately for him, the Jets pulled out a win over the Houston Texans, turning his blooper moment into a secondary story. It's not a defining moment for me, Corley said days later. He gets a clean slate from the new coaching staff, but that doesn't mean he's a shoo-in for a roster spot. Coach Aaron Glenn wants to create a meritocracy, so he's not about to hand out a freebie. He's aware of Corley's reputation at WKU, where he racked up 2,068 yak, 400 more yards than the next closest player in the FBS. Here's what I remember from Corley, Glenn said. His ability to get the ball in his hands and make something happen. When you have a player like that, the first thing you think about is screens. You think about punt return, kick return. You think about things like that. Glenn said Corley hasn't secured a specific role because he missed significant time in the offseason. But he added, there's a plan for him. All right, so there's a plan. So that's good news for Malachi. And we're going to make sure that we try to utilize him to what he can do best. And we've seen that in college. Hopefully he gets well soon, and we get a chance to utilize his skill set. And then we got a thin receiving core. We got Jamal Pritchett here. Somebody asked about Pritchett earlier. Impressed in the spring and could push for a spot, Jamal Pritchett, but he's very small, Pritchett is. So if he does, it'll probably be at the expense of Xavier Gibson. We'll see. Gibson and Pritchett have return ability, which helps their cause. Smith and Corley could get return opportunities in the preseason. Yeah, I don't know why we can't see Arian Smith and Corley try to get a shot. The organization wants to see Corley succeed, but it also wants to see growth. He can start by being ready for the first training camp practice on July 23rd. My old coach, Bill Parcells, used to say the first thing you need to be available. Receivers coach Sean Jefferson said. He's missed some time, and there's a learning curve here, so he's in catch-up mode right now. Got to catch up. So it's not looking great for Malachi. To be honest, reading between the lines of this, he's going to have to really impress, and I think he's probably going to have to become like a part of the kick return group and a backup punt returner, probably to make it and to get Gibson off the roster, essentially. And so, it would be interesting if our kick returners were Corley and Arian Smith. That would be an interesting duo. They got the speedy guy and then the Yak King, returning kicks. I could see that. And then punt returns, probably Arian Smith is probably not a punt return guy with his drops issue. So then Corley would have to do that. Maybe he could win that job. But then he's got to beat out Gibson, so that's a tough one. So we'll have to see what happens, but Malachi, he's going to have to impress in training camp, and you can't make the club from the tub, as they say. Harlan says he doubts Corley will make the team. Well, we don't know. We got to see how he does, but he certainly could get cut. Certainly could get cut. All right, so let's see if there's any news. Otherwise, we'll just go to the chat, see what you guys have to say and or questions. No additional Chimini column, so I guess that column yesterday was his column for the week. And doesn't seem to be any league news. It's a pretty down time for the league right now. Of course, everybody's on vacation. Everybody's taking some time off before training camp begins and we start rolling for the season ahead. Nothing that the Jet beat writers are talking about that I can see. Let's just make sure that no, really is no other news that I can see. I can find. Ablab says, hope he can figure it out. If he gets cut, Casey or Philly picks him up. Geez. Well, I mean, depends on what he can't do. I mean, KC doesn't need more wide receivers this year. They've kind of loaded up. The guys are getting back. They got Hollywood Brown back. They got Rashee Rice coming back. They got a bunch of them. But I don't know. This mysterious thing about him not preparing properly and his professionalism. I mean, they've talked about that, but that's very mysterious, and no one will go on the record and say what he actually did wrong, which I find weird. I mean, nobody ever goes on the record. They want to hide behind anonymity, and then they say we're questioning his approach. What does that mean? What approach did he have that was bad? Is he not taking notes? Is he not showing up for meetings? What's going on? No one will tell us. Philly, I don't know what's going on with Philly, but you're going to take a guy. I mean, they might take a guy. Look what happened to Jahan Dotson. The guy was a complete disappointment for Philly, but he showed up in the Super Bowl. It's like, didn't do anything for them. That was a terrible trade for them for the most part. But on the other hand, Dotson contributed in the Super Bowl, and then they won the Super Bowl. So who cares if they made a bad trade, right? So teams are at different level. We're in the ghetto, Ablab, as I keep trying to state. We're in the ghetto. We're trying to get going. These other teams that are Super Bowl contenders are not our concern, really. They're not. Like whatever Kansas City does and Philly does, those are Super Bowl contenders. They're in the gated community. They can add a player or not add a player, and he might do one play for them, and he might play 5 snaps, and it doesn't matter. They're Super Bowl contenders. Like he's not going to get a lot of playing time for them, but could he contribute and make a play at some key point? Yeah. But that's what happens when you're a Super Bowl team. You can take chances on people. And if it doesn't work out, see you later. It doesn't matter. We're still going to the Super Bowl. Like the best example is Jahan Dotson. That was a bad trade. If we had made the Jahan Dotson trade and he did what he did in Philly for the year, which was basically nothing, everybody would say that was a terrible trade because I think they give up like a 3rd-round pick or something like that. Well, that was a terrible trade. But Philly won the Super Bowl. So it doesn't matter. When you win the Super Bowl and you're in the gated community, moves like that don't matter. But if the Jets did that, Jet fans would be going crazy. This is terrible. Fire the GM. Because we're in the ghetto and we don't win. So, yeah, he could go to another team and play well. Oh, well. See you later. We have our own problems to worry about, which is how to become a decent football team, then a good football team, then a great football team. You can't worry about what the gated community teams are doing. They're on a totally different level. They're just completely out of our league. They're not our concern, Ablab. They're not. They can do whatever they want. We should just look at those teams as like, oh, look, this team's on. Let's watch a good football game. From an entertainment standpoint. When there's 2 good teams playing from the gated community. Maybe they keep him on the practice squad. Somebody would probably pick him up, I would think. Somebody they'd have to waive him, and then somebody would probably take a flyer on him. They'd probably put in a waiver claim, I would think. I mean, wide receiver is a premium position. Some team would be like, we have a need. Let's take a shot. Doesn't cost us anything. Quiet time right now. Just need to get through the next 4 weeks. Yeah, 4 or 5 weeks. It's gonna be rough. It's gonna be rough. Ablab. If we win 9 games, I would say a winning season, 9 games, we're starting to crawl into the middle class neighborhood. But it's got to be more consistent. You can't just win 9 games once and think you're getting out of the ghetto. It doesn't work that way. But a 9-win season with a new staff and things are looking good. And think about it this way, Ablab. The wins are important in this season, but more important is the question of Justin Fields. Is Justin Fields our franchise quarterback or not? We won't know until the season plays out. And so if we win 9 games and Justin Fields balls out and plays really well, and we're like, oh, this is our guy, then you could say, okay, now we're moving toward the middle class neighborhood for sure. But if we luck into 9 games and Fields doesn't play well, and we still don't have our answer at quarterback, then no, you just lucked into 9 wins. Sometimes you get lucky in the league. Like if you have a point to, like one way to look at it is, we do the Delphi power rankings during the season, but one simple way to do it, and that's sort of like an average. I really like that. It works pretty well. It's pretty predictive. But one simple way to look at it is just point differential, right? Let's say your point differential is around 0, right? You should be, if your point differential is around 0, you should be a 500 team, you know. But let's say we had a negative 25 point differential, but we won 9 games. That tells you got very lucky. If you have negative point differential, you should not be winning more than you're losing. You should be losing more than you're winning because you have a negative point differential. That means you got lucky in some close games. You got some doinks, you got some double doinks, you got lucky. This happened to the Vikings and the Giants, a couple of years ago when they met in the playoffs. Those were two of the luckiest teams uh, you've ever seen because they won a bunch of games and they were around 0 point differential, which means they just lucked into a few wins that they shouldn't have had. Well, so you could luck yourself into 9-win season, but if your point differential is bad and all of your existing, like the DVOA and all the Delphi power ranking models that we use, like DVOA and like EPA, if those are all bad and Fields is, way below average, et cetera, and he's proving not to be the franchise solution, then no, we're still in the ghetto. So I would say you got to look at how is the organization trending, and quarterback is huge to that. You got to have the quarterback, as everybody knows. So the question would be, it depends. But if Fields is the guy, and we win 9 games and just miss the playoffs, then we're starting to crawl our way toward the middle class. Because then we're going to sign him to a big contract, probably. And he's the guy. And then maybe we draft another one in the second, third round next year. We have a deep class to have a good backup, good young backup. And then you say, okay, look at this coaching staff. They turned it around. They know what they're doing. Hopefully it goes like that. And the coaching staff, AG, is proving to be, what we all think he can be. Okay, then you're starting to get out. But it takes a lot. You can't just have a 9-win season and boom, all of a sudden you're in middle class. It doesn't work like that. You got to sustain it. It has to be sustainable, and you sustain it with quarterback and coaching and general managering also. And let's let we do have to let Mougey finish out his offseason. I think it's been a disappointing offseason in terms of player acquisition for Mougey. Hasn't been terrible, but lots of ways he screwed up, in my opinion. And there's free agents out there right now, and we have the cap space to pay them, and we're not bringing them in. And I don't understand that, especially on defense. I think the offense is pretty well set. but the defense needs improvement. Now, obviously, the club, as of today, does not feel like it needs improvement. Otherwise, they would go get those guys. So we'll have to see how it plays out. But I will be very mad if I, Frankie, am saying this is a problem for our team. There's solutions out there. We have the cap space. There's no reason not to get these guys. And then I am right. I want to be wrong. I would much prefer I am wrong and the defense plays really well with these guys that we got if we don't acquire anybody else. And I'll be happy and I'll say, "Great, I was wrong, thank God." Because that will mean that the coaches and the front office people are right. I want them to be right. They should be right. A guy sitting in his apartment in Florida shouldn't be able to get to see things that the professionals that we pay millions of dollars to can't see. That should not be. So I'm hoping I'm wrong, but but a lot of times the people sitting on their couch get it right, and the front office and the coaches get it wrong for whatever the reason, especially with the Jets. So I'm hoping I'm wrong about that. And we got to see. Maybe I am. Maybe we're going to do some things on defense that I can't currently see, like we talked about last week. Maybe we're going to do an amoeba front. Maybe we're going to do tight fronts from a 4 down lineman. Maybe we're going to do freaking, I don't know. We're going to do something that I can't currently understand or see properly. That's always possible. So we'll have to see how it plays out. But anyway, so the hope would be we get the quarterback right and then we get coaching decisions right. Like we're looking for little indications that the coaching staff is good, like the GoPro thing. Hey, well, that's pretty smart. Hey, maybe we got some smart coaches here. I showed you Eric Corum. We hired this PhD guy. Seems to be really smart, knows what he's talking about. Hey, that's an indication maybe we got some smart people. But we don't really know until we get on the grass. So at this point, we're just looking for breadcrumbs to tell us maybe we got some good people here. But you don't really know until they start practicing. I mean, the first indications are going to be in training camp when we start getting those reports from the beat writers. Now, we beat up on the beat writers all day long, but one of the things they are actually good at, and Robbie's the best, probably Robbie Sabo from Jets X Factor, but the other guys do know, can compare current situation versus previous years. They have all those years looking at these training camps. Every year, the same people go to the training camp. Every year, it's Chimini and Hughes and all those bums. But they're the ones there and watching things with their eyes. And so when they tell us how things compare to the past, you can believe it because they're looking at it. I mean, and they have years of experience looking at it. Doesn't mean that they're good at predicting what's going to happen. But what they are good at is saying, this looks different than that. This looks the same as this. And so you can start to get some indications. And that's the first time we're going to be getting indications is training camp beat reporter reports when we start getting that information. And like I say, Robbie Sabo's the best one. He's not always right. He doesn't get everything right, but he's probably the most reliable one. And we got to see. And then hopefully what we're seeing is, impressive and gives us optimism and hope going forward, because right now there's not a lot of hope. Las Vegas is not like our team. I hate to tell you guys. Vegas is not too high on our squad right now. It's not. And, all of the people who generate these wins predictor values, they're very low for the Jets. We're in the bottom 5 of the league in most of these wins. That's like 5.5 wins, maybe 6.5. But that's it. That's what they're predicting for us. So all of these predictors are looking at the roster going, no, that's not a good team. So we'll have to see how it goes. But those are the indications that we have right now. Joe Mike says, I just want to see a well-coached team, growth from Fields, and rebounds from Sauce and Brees Hall. Imagine if we win games after bye week and well-schemed game plans on offense and defense. Yeah. Could happen. Second half of the schedule is pretty soft, at least as we think right now. Of course, that all changes once the season begins and Teams you thought were bad were actually good. Teams you thought were going to be good fall off. Injuries play a big role in all of that. So, yeah, if we have good coaches and AG is what we all think, that's good news because that means we have that for long term. And then we got to get the quarterback right. I mean, it's just the way it is. And if you want optimism, our offensive line has the potential to be really good, and a good offensive line can elevate everybody. Gives quarterback more time to throw, opens holes for the running backs. So, and if we get a tight end in here who could block, that'd be fantastic. Doge says, "Yeah, we had 10-win season in 2015, right? So 2000, right? That's a good point in terms of this. Well, if we have a good season, are we out of the ghetto? The answer is no. 2000, and here's an example from history. 2015 was the only year in the past 15 years now was the only year where we had an above average offense and we won 10 games and we just missed the playoffs and it was not sustainable because then Fitzgerald went back to being Fitzgerald and Fitzpatrick and all of that happened and that team was very sort of top heavy and fell apart. And we have not in the past 15 years. That was the one year we've had an offense in the top half of the league, if you can believe it. Just being better than average. 1 year out of 15. That's terrible. So, yeah, that's the example. Ablab, I get the feeling our point differential will be good. I know AG will have us up in takeaways, which shouldn't be too hard. Well, if we have a good point differential, then that means you're going to be winning games. If you look at all the teams that, generally speaking, again, there's fluky stuff that happens, like my example was a couple of years ago with the Giants and Vikings. But mostly, the good teams, the really good teams, have big point differentials, big positive point differentials. That's generally the case. And it's a pretty strong indicator. Again, it's not a perfect indicator, but it's a pretty strong indicator that you are a really good team when you're thumping people. I mean, and it's reflected in the points. Now, one thing you want to think about in point differential in the 6 games that Justin Fields started with the Steelers, what was the point differential of those 6 games for the Steelers last year? Nobody knows in the chat? What was the point differential that Justin Fields had in the 6 games he started for the Steelers last year? That would be an indicator, wouldn't it, of quality of offense? So maybe people should look at that. Maybe people should take a look. Take a look. We're going to take a hard look. People should take a hard look. We're going to take a hard look at that, Jeff Ulbrich says. Jeff Ulbrich should take a hard look at his family members leaking information. Take a hard look, Jeff. Nobody knows? It was plus 38. Is that good? Plus 38. That good? Pretty good. Pretty good. Plus 3, Ablab says. No, plus 38. And that was with an offense that they weren't running a lot of RPOs, that was designed for Russell Wilson. And Russell Wilson still put up a plus 38, went 4-2. The 2 games he lost were each by 3 points. And one was a last-second loss to the Cowboys, where Dak took the team down the field and scored in the last minute, and had a plus 38 point differential. And the offense was getting better and better and better each week. And I have a whole video about it. You can take a look. Plus 38. So if you want to be optimistic about Justin Fields, that's what you would look at. They were running an offense that ran about 5% of the plays were RPOs, 5%. With Justin Fields, you should be running 30, 40% RPO, in my opinion, because he's really good at that. And we'll see, and we're going to keep track of how many RPOs we're running. And I got it on my drive chart, so I'm going to chart it every game. And so to do that, 4-2 record, plus 38 point differential. The 2 games he lost were both by 3 points, and the team was and the offense was just getting better and better by the way I measure it, which is a system similar to EPA. It was just getting better and better as the season was moving along, and they yanked him. So if you want to be optimistic about Justin, there's your case to be made to be optimistic about Justin. Hey, this guy was getting better. He was proving it on the field. He was um, doing well. He was not turning the ball over in those 6 games. I think he had like 1 interception, 6 games, and maybe 1 or 2 fumbles, something like that. Um, so not a lot of turnovers and all those positives, and they yanked him for old Russell Wilson for some reason. Um, and so I think that's one of the reasons that Justin's here. He was like, "Wait a minute, that could have been your guy," and Tomlin said, "Nah, we'll go with old Russell." Okay, so that's what I think. This year is going to be a very interesting year in terms of Justin Fields, and we'll see. Maybe he's our guy. Maybe he is. Maybe he isn't. It's kind of ironic because if it turns out that Justin Fields is the guy, if you remember the draft where we took Zach Wilson, there was another guy in that draft called Justin Fields, and the first overall pick was Trevor uh, Lawrence, of course, and Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields are the same age, and they were the same cohort all through high school, coming into college, and they were big deal players coming out of the South, and everybody was all excited about Lawrence and Fields in that class. They were generally considered 1 and 2 for a long time, and a lot of the press. It was always Lawrence and Fields, Lawrence and Fields, Lawrence and Fields, and then they met in the in the Natty, if you remember. And so everybody was like Lawrence and Fields, Lawrence and Fields. And then the draft process came along, and everybody started talking about Trey Lance and Zach Wilson, and a lot of people were like, no, it's Lawrence and Fields. What are you idiots talking about? It's Lawrence and Fields, and Lawrence went 1 overall, and then Fields went whatever he went, 11 or 10, and Zach Wilson and Trey Lance went 2 and 3. And as of right now, Wilson and Lance have not succeeded in the NFL. Lawrence has been successful to a certain degree. I mean, he's now making 65 million, so I guess he's successful. And then Fields has sort of been in the middle, where he's had some success, but not lived up to expectations so far. And so it would be ironic if we wind up with a guy that maybe we should have taken with the second overall pick, that everybody said in that cohort, hey, it's Lawrence and Fields. It's Lawrence and Fields. It's not Lawrence and Trey Lance and Lawrence and Zach Wilson. But, life is weird. So that's where we are. Any other questions, concerns, comments? Let me know in the chat. AbLab is just a very jet thing for us not to take field. Right, exactly. But hey, if it does, it does. I mean, life is weird. If that's the way it had to go, that's the way it had to go. I mean, if we get a franchise quarterback one way or another, then it doesn't matter what circuitous route, what road he took to get here. If it turns out we got one, then we should just all get down on our knees and pray to God that we got one. Alan Dodes, the Jets thing would be if Fields come here and stink. Well, that could happen too, of course. Of course, this could also happen, Dodes. I'm trying to paint an optimistic picture, and Alan Dode come in here and blows it all up. Dodes, I'm trying to paint an optimistic picture for you, and you come in here and you give the negativity. You bring the negativity. Why? Why you got to do that, Dodes? Why? Tell me. I'm trying to be optimistic. It's hard at this point in time because we're in the ghetto. There's not a lot of optimism in the ghetto. There's not a lot of optimism in the trailer park in the ghetto. Those people are not optimistic people, generally speaking, because they have bad circumstances all around them. What's there to be optimistic about? I'm living in a ghetto. It stinks. And but that's where we are, and I'm trying to bring a little optimism to the table, and then Dodes comes in here and blows it all up. Yeah, he gonna stink. Hey, it's possible and probably probable, but Or he has one good year, we don't draft anyone, then well, this is what I think. Next year, we should take a quarterback no matter what, Dodes. What about this idea? Not in the first, like if Fields is great, then maybe we don't take him the first round. But round 2, why not? It's going to be a deep quarterback class, we think. And so there should be plenty available, sort of like the Jalen Milroe strategy that the Seahawks are doing, right? They have Darnold, the Seahawks, and they're saying, okay, Darnold's a guy, but let's take Milroe just in case, right? So one thing to do is he plays great. Okay, now we don't maybe need a first round quarterback, but second round, let's take a guy. Why not? Especially if there's a dual threat guy who can kind of do the things that Justin can do. Maybe not as good, but has that ability. Get that guy to be a backup, and then if Fields falls off, now you have that guy. See, and this is what I call the Jalen Milroe strategy. This is what the Seahawks are doing. Darnold's the quarterback for them now, but every year I think in that contract has an out, and so they're saying, yeah, he's the guy, but if he falls off, we got an out. We don't got to pay him. And then you draft the Milroe behind, right? And you hope that Jalen Milroe develops, and Milroe's a great kid, by the way, just in terms of his personality and his hard work and all that good stuff. So you hope he works out if you're a Seahawk, right? JoJo says they better draft a quarterback. Yeah, that's the way I see it. I hope Justin works out. And then round 2, we also take a quarterback, do the Jalen Milroe strategy that the Seahawks are doing. That way, that's a risk mitigation against Fields falling off and just having one good year, right? Though it'd be hard to imagine Fields putting it together and then falling apart because, first of all, the running is not going to change, right? Like, he can always put up 800 yards rushing. I mean, think about it. 800 yards. I mean, to Justin Fields, that's nothing for rushing wise. So probably if we were in the right offense, he's always going to be able to do that. And if he wants to turn it up a notch, he could put up 1,000. So there's always that aspect where if you're running the correct system for him, there's that. So how much could he really fall off? And, and then it's about the passing. So I guess he could take a step back passing wise. But there's always that kind of floor for him, if you see what I'm saying. Dode says, I'm all for taking quarterback next year no matter what. Yeah. And it's and if Fields stinks this year, then it's going to be a first-round quarterback, and we're going to stink, and we'll have a top 5 pick, and we'll get, hopefully, my favorite is Lenora Sellers, but I don't know if he's going to come out. But a guy like the quarterback at LSU, Nussmeier, or the guy at Penn State, Aller, those guys are almost certainly coming out. There's a lot of interesting quarterbacks in college this year. I'm probably going to do some college watch-alongs this year. Tell me in the chat if you guys want college watch-alongs with Frankie this year on Saturdays. There's going to be a lot of interesting games. I'm going to want to watch Lenora Sellers. I'm going to want to watch Nussmeier. I'm going to want to watch Drew Aller. Let's see how he looks. I'm going to want to watch Mateer in Oklahoma. There's another interesting guy, John Mateer. I want to watch DJ Lagway. That's a youngster over in Florida, the University of Florida. A lot of interesting quarterbacks in this class this year. Let me know if you want to do some watch-alongs on Saturday. We could just have a Saturday chat about anything. We'll just keep an eye on some of these college games. Some of these QBs who might be Jets next year. One way or the other. So Ablab says yes. Joe Mike, any update on grass and MetLife? Yeah, we're not getting it, Joe. Well, I don't know how many times I got to tell you. We're not getting it. They're getting it for soccer. The only way we're getting it is if the NFL, I keep telling you this, Joe, is if the NFLPA demands it. It's on the Players Association, Joe. The soccer players won't stand for turf. And they say, no, we're not playing unless you put grass. And then they put grass. And the NFL players have to put on their big boy pants and threaten a strike to get it. Otherwise, MetLife is not doing it. It's too hard to turn over that field in grass. And so the Jets also need their own stadium, in my opinion, but Woody doesn't want to do that. Remember, there's no way, like if there was grass in MetLife, there's no way they could do some of the things they do with like the Jets playing on a Saturday, Jets playing on a Sunday, and then the Giants playing on Monday night in the same stadium, which they did do last year and have done in the past. The only way you could do that is with turf. Now, I'm not saying that's good. I'm just saying that's the way it is. And the NFL looks at it like, well, that's convenient, for us. And the only other stadium where there's two teams playing, which is in LA, also has turf. So part of the problem is that Woody made that decision all those years ago. Remember, he tried to get the East Side Stadium, West Side Stadium, whatever it is, in Manhattan over there, and what's his name, James Dolan, put the pressure on that he didn't want it there because he didn't want competition with Madison Square Garden, and that led Woody to go, all right, well then I'll go halvesies with the Giants. And so no, they're not. It's not happening. It's only happening for soccer because the soccer players demand it. And if you want the soccer tournament there, then you got to do what we say. Otherwise, we just don't play. Say the soccer players. And good for them. Good for those soccer players. They stand up for themselves. I only watch college football during draft season. Well, Dodes, you might want to keep an eye on some of these kids. I mean, I don't know if you've had a chance to check out Lenora Sellers. He's also just fun to watch. As an example, he's my current favorite. But a lot of these guys are going to be good probably. But Sellers is fun to watch. I mean, just from an entertainment standpoint, Lenora Sellers is really fun to watch. Quick release, rocket arm. He's like a combination of Dan Marino, John Elway, and Justin Fields. And he can run. He's big. And he has a quick ass release and he has a rocket arm. I mean, this kid is amazing. Now, is he going to be a good quarterback? I don't know. But he's fun to watch. Joe Mike, I truly believe that if we did draft a quarterback next year, this coaching staff would get it right and pick one that would succeed. Well, we don't know that, Joe. First of all, the draft picks are mostly done by the scouting staff. Now, building a scheme around him, yeah. But, I mean, that's on the coaching staff. So, I mean, it's hand in hand, right? Putting Justin Fields in a Russell Wilson offense is pretty stupid. But that's what the Steelers did, and they still won 4 out of 6 games. Is that a credit to Fields? Is that a credit to Arthur Smith? I mean, they were also running heavy 13 personnel. You guys didn't watch the games. I did. I went back and I charted all 6 of his starts. They were using heavy 13 personnel. 13! And they wanted Fields to be some kind of great passer out of 13 personnel. I mean, come on. So, but yeah, the coaching staff will, whatever guy we get, we should build the system around him. We got to see. And we also just don't know, Joe. So they're saying all the right things now, but they haven't done anything. Saleh and Ulbrich and those guys, they also said they were going to build systems around the players. You realize that, right? They also said that, but then they didn't do it. I mean, I'm sure they did. They thought they were to some extent. Maybe they were, but they also said they would do that. And so now this coaching staff is saying they're going to do it. So, but we don't know what they're going to do. Again, if the offensive scheme is not running 30+% RPOs, then this staff is garbage. Sorry. And I'm going to track it because you have Justin Fields. You need to be running that high a percentage in order to. Now, if they don't, and then we're just gangbusters, okay, fine. I don't know what I'm talking about. And that's fine too. But in my opinion, got to be running a high percentage, 30-40% RPOs with Justin Fields, in my opinion. Now, if they don't and the offense stinks, then we got bad coaches again. And that would be bad. JoJo says, definitely looking forward to watching the college QBs this year. All right. So I think I'm going to do some Saturday watch-alongs. South Carolina. Also, South Carolina has a stacked roster. They also have a wide receiver that's going to be a high pick, it looks like. Big, tall guy who's really fast. In addition to Sellers, Oh yeah, somebody mentioned Arch Manning also. Yeah, so like Texas, some of these teams that have all the talent are also good to watch because you need to familiarize yourself with who's coming into the draft. And the team, the SEC teams mostly have all the talent. Penn State will have a lot of talent, obviously. Michigan, Ohio State. Ohio State has a quarterback. His name is like Josh Sayin, like just saying, but his name is like Josh Sayin. So we'll see how good he is, of course. But then you got all the wide receivers on Ohio State, of course, including one that everybody says is the best yet, Jeremiah Smith. So yeah, I think I'm going to do it. Saturday watch alongs, and we could flip around, and we'll just shoot the breeze on a Saturday, but also keep an eye on some of these college quarterbacks. I'll tell you which team doesn't have a good quarterback, UCF. we're gonna be in trouble. It looks like. Uh, Alan Does. I'll see Sellers in the NFL. Yeah, Sellers is a better version of Fields. He might be. He might be, and I'll tell you why. Because he has that quick release. That's the one thing Justin does not have. He is a little bit of a wind up. And if he could ever improve that and improve his processing, he could be dynamite. But Sellers has a quick release and a rocket arm, and he's big and fast. I mean, to me, Lenora Sellers is the most exciting quarterback to watch out of the ones I've seen so far, I must say. So, but he's young, and there's no even if he has a good year, there's no guarantee he's going to come out into this draft. He's very, very young. I think he's 20 or 21. So, and same thing with DJ Lagway. He might not come out. Same thing with Arch Manning. Arch Manning might not come out. But then you got Cade Klubnik. Clemson, yeah. Clemson has, they got Cade Klubnik. He might be a pick. He might be a guy. Penn State, you got Drew Aller. He might be a guy. So, a lot to think about. Dodes, UCF is my school. Well, this is where I work, Alan Dodes. They recruited me down here. You know what I'm saying? And I'll tell you guys, I'm about to go do some risk management work for the athletic department. So it's going to be very interesting what I learn. But UCF, they hired Scott Frost as the head coach. Okay. He had success here before, but he did not have success in Nebraska. And in fact, that whole tenure was very bad. So you have to wonder about that and worry about that. And I don't think their roster is very stacked right now, Dodes, and they don't have a clear-cut quarterback. Now, one of these guys that they have might, emerge. They got one guy who's a good dual threat quarterback in terms of running, but so far hasn't been good as far as passing goes. Brown, but we'll see. Maybe one of these guys that they have on the roster emerges, but there's not a lot of optimism that they have a quarterback this year or that they're going to be good this year. The idea is, well, you got to let Scott Frost, get in there and get his guys in, roster turnover and all that. And so it's going to be a rough year this year is the idea, with the goal of, well, next year, once we can recruit and Scott Frost will get his own guys in there, and then, next year they'll be good. But it's not looking good this year, Dodes. At least not so far. I mean, people are predicting them coming last place of the Big 12. So, but we do have Bill Belichick coming into the bounce house this year, so we'll see how he likes the bounce house. All right. Any other questions, concerns, ideas, thoughts? Otherwise, we'll call it a day. It's already 11:30. Wonder why Frost failed at Nebraska? Yeah, nobody really knows. It was a strange and confusing situation. So we'll see how he does his second tenure here in Central Florida. All right. Well, thanks everybody. Hopefully I'll be able to get a few videos up on the channel this week. I know I haven't been able to put up videos. I'm still finalizing this audiobook project that I've been working on, but hopefully that is coming to an end. And then once that ends, I'll be able to have more time for Jet videos. Exciting time for Jet videos. Nothing really going on. But I think this week I should be able to get them up there. Otherwise, if you're new here, please subscribe to the channel. We're trying to drive that up. And otherwise, just give the video a thumbs up. We'd appreciate that. And also, if you want to join the inner circle, the inner square, or the inner triangle, those are membership tiers that you can join to support the channel, whatever financial tier fits your situation best. And I'll see you guys